A very good morning and a happy Wednesday. Welcome to today's episode of Morning Wealth. The Reddit craziness continues. Earnings update from Microsoft, AMD, StarBucks and LVMH. FOMC meets and some important comments from ECB. These are the things that we will talk about. What does a video game retailer have in common with a troubled movie theater chain, a purveyor of bath bombs and a once mighty cell phone maker? The answer is Reddit, or more specifically, a popular investor group on the website that drove a flurry of buyers into GameStop starting last year. That flurry has continued. The retailer's share price soared another 93% on Tuesday and has more than tripled in just the last week. In fact, post-market, it's up another 63% as I see it. The same crowd has recently taken a shine on other once unloved names like BlackBerry, Bed Bath & Beyond and AMC Entertainment. All three jumped further on Tuesday, have seen their market values more than double so far just this month. Meanwhile, the broader market still has to contend with a more mundane matter, the actual business fundamentals. Johnson & Johnson and 3M shares rose following strong quarterly results, while Verizon shares dropped as telecommunications giant posted a decline in earnings while also dealing with a severe network outage on the East Coast. By the end of the day, the Dow was down 0.1%, the S&P was down 0.2%, while the Nasdaq slipped a small fraction. Treasuries were little changed. The 10-year yields hovered just above 1.03, dollar mostly weak, with the Kiwi and the Aussie leading the G10 gains. Oil and gold both dipped. Asian equity futures are solidly in the green. On the results front, Microsoft was up 5%, posted strong quarterly sales underpinned by pandemic-fueled demand for video gaming and accelerated adoption of its cloud computing services. The software giant Tuesday said fiscal second quarter net income rose more than 30% to 15.5 billion. Sales advanced 17% to 43.1 billion. Wall Street was expecting a 40.2 billion and net income of 12.6 billion. This is according to FactSet. The remote work area has been a boon for Microsoft. In addition to its video gaming and cloud computing products, the company has seen strong sales for its Surface laptops as people bought devices to work remotely and enable distance learning, and use of Microsoft Teams workplace collaboration software that includes text chat and video conferencing has been a priority for Chief Executive Satya Nadella, has jumped during the pandemic as well. In other earnings, StarBucks lagged at home but did well in China. Global same-store sales fell 5%, which was worse than 4.2 estimate, and a 5% drop in the US was just ahead of estimates, while a 5% gain in China beat expectations. Bullish forecast from chip makers AMD and Texas Instruments. AMD predicted a revenue of 3.2 billion, topping the 2.7 billion estimate. The later said sales will be about 3.79 billion to 4.1 billion. The consensus called for a 3.58 billion. LVMH said sales of fashion and leather goods soared 18% on an organic basis in the fourth quarter, topping the 11% estimate. Full year profit from recurring operations was 8.31 billion euros, which beat the 7.21 billion euro consensus. Shares were up about 1.2%. GE jumped after the midpoint of its 2021 industrial free cash flow outlook. Top consensus was up 2.7%. J&J forecast beat. The positive guidance doesn't include the vaccine and the company will share phase 3 details soon. Johnson & Johnson was up about 2.7%. In other news, Beyond Meat soared after the Fox meat maker and PepsiCo announced a joint venture to develop new plant-based snacks and drinks. The venture dubbed Planet Partnership represents a long-term driver for Beyond to capture more market share, according to Oppenheimer. Shares surge as much as 39%, which JP Morgan said overshoots the actual financial opportunity. In other markets, the Euro Stock 600 rose 0.6%. Shares of UBS was up 2.9% after the Swiss bank announced a new buyback program of about 4.5 billion, having closed 2020 with a consensus-beating quarterly performance. The Hang Seng Index in Hong Kong dropped 2.6% as heavyweight Tencent Holdings fell 6.3%, retreating from a record high reached in the previous session. The Federal Reserve holds their first 2021 FOMC meeting on Wednesday, and based on performance of US assets, investors don't expect any surprises from the central bank. The rally in stocks and broad-based decline in US dollar signs that investors are looking for steady policy. That means continued commitment to accommodation accompanied by an upbeat outlook for the second half recovery. ECB policymakers have agreed to take a deeper look into euro's appreciation against the dollar since the start of the pandemic, focusing on whether it's driven by differences in stimulus policies compared with the US, according to some reporting. The review could shape how ECB responds to an issue that has alarmed policymakers who worry that the euro's strength over the past year depresses inflation that's already below zero. That could force the ECB to provide more stimulus even as it acknowledges mounting risk to financial stability. That was an interesting piece of observation that I read. That's the update. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.